Chosen one, there is an identity that has been hidden within you throughout all this time, and not by accident or by shame, but because it was being preserved, guarded, and refined in the silent places of your soul, far from the eyes that would not know how to recognize the value of what was being forged in secret. You have carried a beauty that transcends what any mirror could ever reflect, and you have endured a burden of invisibility that no one around you truly understood, because your environment was not prepared to receive who you really are. And it is for precisely this reason that heaven kept you covered, preserved, waiting for the exact moment when the revelation of your true identity would become not just visible, but impossible to ignore. Tonight, I speak with you about the transformation that is happening in places no one sees, and about the moment when you will cease to be the woman forgotten in the corners and become the woman who was designated to change everything. I have met many women in my journey who carry this specific weight of invisibility, that which does not hurt like an open wound, but burns silently like hot coals in your chest that no one can see smoldering within. You grew up in spaces where your voice was not requested, where your presence was tolerated but not celebrated, where you learned far too early that it was safer to remain small, wiser to keep your true nature guarded, because at some point in your life you saw the price that true women pay when they refuse to diminish themselves. There is a specific type of pain in being too intelligent for a space that values docility, in being too deep for people who prefer superficiality, in feeling too much in a world that rewards those who can remain unmoved. You carry within you an intensity that frightens weak people, a presence that the small of spirit attempt to diminish, a wisdom that makes the insecure feel threatened, and because of this, you learn to camouflage yourself, to become invisible, to play roles that do not truly represent you, so that you could coexist peacefully with those around you. But I come tonight to tell you that this season of hiddenness is coming to an end, not because you failed to remain hidden, but because you were designated to be revealed, and the very fact that you managed to be faithful, honest, true to yourself throughout all this time of darkness is proof that you are being prepared for something that will require all your strength, all your authenticity, all the depth of your being. I will take you to a story found in the book of Esther, and I want you to see yourself in this narrative because the spirit of this story is alive within you at this very moment, and you need to understand why heaven kept you in a place of apparent defeat for so long. The story begins with a woman who was born in exile, who lost her parents when she was still very young, who was raised under the guardianship of a good man, but who was fundamentally a child without a home, without a known identity, without visible connection to her people or her purpose. Esther grew up in a foreign palace, in an environment that was not hers, surrounded by luxuries that could not fill the emptiness of who she really was, and despite all this, she received grace, not just physical beauty that would attract attention, but something far deeper, something that sacred text calls divine favor, that quality that makes people feel there is something different about you, something they cannot name but instantly recognize. Esther did not begin as the queen she would become. She began as the invisible orphan, as the woman no one really knew, as the foreigner who kept her true identity secret, and it was precisely this invisibility that protected her while she became who she needed to be. No one could conspire against her because they did not know who she really was. No one could sabotage her because they did not perceive her true strength, and no one could try to control her because she was invisible beneath the weight of roles that did not truly represent her, but that kept her safe while she was molded, refined, and prepared for her specific purpose. Before we continue in this revelation that will forever change how you see yourself, I want you to recognize that this video is being useful to you, that it is touching something deep in your spirit that you already suspected but never heard anyone name aloud. If you feel there is truth in these words, if you are recognizing your own story within this narrative I am sharing, then take this moment to subscribe to our channel, because what follows are the keys that will transform how you understand your purpose, your invisibility, and your preparation for the moment that is coming. Leave your like on this video, because each of these gestures helps us bring this message to other women who are where you were, who are feeling what you feel, and who need to hear that their invisibility is not an accident, but divine protection. And please comment Amen below. Leave a mark of your faith, because when you declare this publicly, You are aligning yourself with the truth of who you are, and you are inviting heaven to work even more deeply in your life, so that when your moment of revelation comes, you are completely aligned with your power, with your true identity, and with the purpose for which you were called in this specific time. Let me delve more deeply into the life of Esther, so you begin to see the divine patterns that heaven is weaving within your own life, because it is no coincidence that you are watching this now, at this specific moment, when you are beginning to question why you have lived as if hidden, as if merely surviving, as if your true life is waiting in a future that seems never to come. Esther was brought to the palace of King Ahasuerus during a search for a new queen, and you need to understand that she did not apply for this role. She did not ask to be torn from her simple life and taken to a place of privilege and danger simultaneously. But she was chosen, not because they knew who she was, but because there was something about her that stood out, even when she tried to remain invisible. The text says she gained favor not only with the king's servants, but more importantly, she gained favor with Haggai, the eunuch responsible for the women in the palace, and this is significant because it shows that the people who had power, who had authority, who could facilitate or hinder her path, all recognized something special in Esther, even when she was doing the most humble work, the most invisible work, the work that no one would really notice or value. When Esther finally presented herself to the king, when her turn came among hundreds of other women being evaluated by the same visual standard, the king found favor in her above all women, and he placed the royal crown upon her head. But listen to this very carefully. He did not know who she really was. He did not know she was Jewish. He did not know her story. He did not understand the depth of what he was crowning, and it was precisely this way it had to be, because if he had known her true identity, perhaps he would never have allowed her to come so close to power. The invisibility of Esther was not a failure on her part, was not a rejection, was not a curse she needed to overcome through her own effort. It was a divine strategy, a cloak of protection that heaven placed upon her while preparing her for a purpose so great, so dangerous, so transformative, that she needed to be completely prepared, completely aligned, completely secure in her true identity before that identity was revealed. Can you imagine what would have happened if Esther had claimed her power before the right time? If she had insisted on being known for who she really was before establishing her position near the king? If she had allowed her environment to define who she was, instead of letting heaven silently shape who she would become? She would have been destroyed, eliminated. Her enemies would have conspired against her long before she could be in a position to truly make a difference. But because she remained faithful to the process, because she accepted invisibility as part of her preparation, she could be exactly in the right place, at the right time, with the right authority to save her entire people. If you desire to connect more deeply with your spirituality and finally understand why you have always felt different, as if you see and feel things others cannot perceive, then the digital book entitled The 12 Secret Keys of the Chosen Ones can completely transform the way you relate to your sensitivity, your intuition, and the calling that burns within you. This book was written specifically for women like you, women who carry a depth that frightens ordinary people, women who feel too much in a world that rewards insensitivity, women who always knew there was something different about them, but never found an explanation that made sense until now. Through 12 powerful keys, you will finally understand why your sensitivity is not a weakness, why your intuition is not a whim, why the calling within you is not an accident, but rather a gift and a mission for which you were born. And once you understand this, you will never see yourself in the same way again. This edition is available only for a limited time, so do not let this opportunity pass to transform your understanding of yourself, your purpose, and your place in the divine plan that was already being woven long before you were born. The link to access the digital book is in the first comment below, and when you click it, you will be taking the first step toward a journey of self-discovery that will change everything in your life. Now I want you to understand what happened when Esther finally revealed her true identity, because this is the moment that defines everything, because it is when all the invisibility, all the preparation, all the silent faithfulness transformed into power that changed the history of an entire people. There was a man in the palace called Haman, and Haman was a man who represented everything that oppresses, everything that diminishes, everything that conspires against those who are different, those who do not fit in, those who threaten his power through their very existence. Haman discovered that Mordecai, Esther's cousin and guardian, was Jewish, and this filled him with a rage that overflowed into hatred for all the Jewish people, and he convinced the king to issue a decree ordering the destruction of all Jews in the kingdom on a specific day, not because they had done anything wrong, but because Haman hated them, because existing as Jewish was enough to be marked as an enemy. When Mordecai learned of this decree, he asked Esther to go to the king and beg for the life of her people. And this placed Esther at an impossible crossroads, because if she revealed that she was Jewish, she would expose herself to all the rage Haman directed toward her people. She would become visible in a way there was no choice to return from. She would risk everything she had built in silence, but if she remained invisible, if she kept her secret, thousands of people would die, because she feared being known. And it is in this moment that you see the true courage of Esther, not when she is comfortable, not when she is safe, not when she can continue playing her role, but when she is confronted with the choice between her personal safety and the greater calling she carries. Esther gathered courage and said to Mordecai that phrase that echoes through the centuries, "If I perish, I perish." And she went to the king without being called, risking her own life simply by entering his presence without permission. And when the king saw her, he did not reject her, he honored her. He extended his golden scepter to her. And this is significant because it shows that when you finally reveal yourself, when you choose to put yourself at risk for something greater than yourself, divine power operates through that vulnerability in a way that transcends any human strategy. Esther revealed who she was, revealed that she was Jewish, revealed that Haman had conspired against her own people, and the reversal was so complete, so radical, that not only were the Jews saved, but Haman was executed by the very sentence he had tried to impose on others, and Mordecai was elevated to a position of great honor and authority in the kingdom. The invisibility of Esther was not permanent, it was strategic. And when the right time came, when she had been properly prepared, when her faithfulness had been tested and proven, she emerged from her place of hiddenness, not to claim power for herself, but to protect and serve those she loved. And it is precisely this that heaven is preparing you to do. Chosen daughter, you need to understand that the invisibility in which you have lived throughout all this time is not an accident of the universe, is not an error heaven made when creating your destiny, is not a failure on your part to become visible or valid enough to deserve attention. Invisibility is protection. It is a cloak that heaven placed upon you while you were being molded, while you were being taught, while you were being prepared for a purpose so great, so specific, so revolutionary, that any minor premature exposure would have resulted in sabotage, in conspiracy, in deliberate attempts to prevent you from reaching this point. When you were invisible, you could not be attacked by people who feel threatened by your existence, could not be targeted by those who fear your power, could not be limited by reduced expectations of those too small to understand the magnitude of what is happening within you. The invisibility kept you safe while you grew in wisdom, while you learned who you really were without the constant interference of those who wanted to keep you diminished. And it was in this silent space, in this place apparently empty of external recognition, that heaven was forging in you a strength that no earthly gold could compare to. You were invisible because you were being preserved, protected, refined in secret, because your purpose was not small enough to be achieved through ordinary effort, because what you were designated to do will require that you have arrived at this completely aligned with the truth of who you are, completely secure in your divine identity, completely indifferent to those who will try to diminish you once you finally reveal yourself. In the next 30 days, you will recognize the first sign that your season of revelation is coming, and this sign may come in a completely unexpected way. It may come through a casual conversation with someone you never imagined could open doors. It may come through an opportunity you would never have claimed for yourself. It may come through a public recognition of who you are that you did not ask for, but that heaven orchestrated with the precision of a divine clock that marks time from before the ages. This sign will not be you finally being seen, will not be the validation you sought for so long. It will be something much deeper. It will be the first movement of a process that cannot be interrupted. It will be the first whisper of heaven telling you that your hour has come, that invisibility has served your purpose throughout all this time. And now it is time to emerge, not to claim power for yourself, but to fulfill a calling that is much greater than you. When this sign appears, you will know it is time to begin speaking your truth in a louder voice. It is time to begin honoring who you really are, instead of continuing to pretend to be someone you never were. It is time to allow those who truly love you to see the depth you have been hiding for protection. It is time to become slowly, carefully, strategically visible to those heaven is positioning around you. But listen to this very carefully. You do not reveal yourself to gain approval. You reveal yourself because heaven demands it. You do not emerge from your place of hiddenness because you finally conquered your insecurities. You emerge because there are people heaven has placed in your life who need exactly what you carry, who need your wisdom, your strength, your courage, your truth, and they cannot have access to this while you continue hiding who you really are. Now I need to warn you about something that is not nice to say, but that is absolutely necessary for you to understand. When you begin to reveal yourself, when you begin to emerge from your strategic invisibility, opposition will intensify, will escalate, will become more creative, more dangerous, more personal than anything you have ever experienced. There is a reason why the book of Esther does not end when Esther is crowned queen. There is a reason why the true crisis does not come at the beginning of the story, but in the middle of it, when the stakes are higher, when there is more to lose, when revelation and emergence have already begun. Haman did not try to destroy Esther when she was invisible. He tried to destroy her entire people when she had already become queen, when her position was established, when she had power. And this is a pattern heaven wants you to understand deeply. The more visible you become, the more you honor your own power, the more you walk in your designated purpose, the more intense the resistance will be from those who feel threatened by your existence. You can expect that people you loved will try to diminish you, that people you trusted will question your sanity, that people who should support you will try to sabotage you, because the truth is that not everyone can be where you are going. Not everyone can endure the brilliance of your power. Not everyone can stand by your side when you finally cease to be small. This does not mean you did something wrong. It does not mean your calling is less valid. It means you are growing in a direction not everyone can follow, and you need to be prepared for this reality, for this cost, for this solitude that sometimes comes with the courage to be true. But listen, the same heaven that protected you throughout your invisibility will protect you during your revelation, and you will not be alone, because there are people heaven is preparing specifically to walk beside you on your journey of emergence. There are people who will understand automatically who you are because they too were invisible. They too were prepared in secret. They too carry a calling much greater than what the outside world knows about them. There is a specific passage that heaven wants me to speak with you about tonight, and it is in the book of Proverbs, where it says that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And this is not a pretty statement just to make you feel better for a moment. This is an absolute truth that governs the reality of your being. Because you are not alone in this journey, you have an advocate who is far more powerful than any Haman that may arise in your life. Heaven places an angel at the guard of your assignment, and the mandate of this angel is simple and unbreakable. Your wall will be completed, your purpose will be fulfilled, nothing will interrupt the time that was designated for your emergence, no conspiracy will succeed, no voice of hatred will have power, no attempt at sabotage will cause any real deviation from the path you are destined to walk. When the enemies of Esther heard that the wall she was building had been completed, when they realized she had accomplished the impossible, they fell greatly in their own self-esteem, not because Esther had argued with them, not because she had answered each accusation, not because she had tried to prove her point through argument, but because the completion of her work, the visible manifestation of her purpose, was the answer to everything that had been mocked. The completion of what you are building will be the answer to everything anyone has said against you, will be living proof of who you really are, will be the silencer for every voice that tried to diminish you, will be the manifestation of a power that no human tongue can deny or remove. And you do not need to argue with your critics. You do not need to try to convince your enemies. You do not need to spend your valuable time responding to each accusation, because the only argument that matters is the one of work done. It is the completed wall. It is the transformed life. It is the saved people. It is the truth incarnate. I want you to declare with me now aloud if you can, with all the strength that resides within you, because when you speak these words, you are not just speaking to yourself, you are speaking to heaven. You are creating an agreement with the universe. You are aligning yourself with the truth of your designated being and inviting the divine to work even more deeply in your life. I declare that I am chosen, that I am a daughter of the Most High, that my invisibility was divine protection and not rejection. I declare that I carry a purpose greater than my own comfort, greater than my own security, greater than the approval of those who do not understand who I am. I declare that the hour of my revelation is coming, that there is no power on earth that can prevent the fulfillment of what I was designated for. I declare that those who wanted to diminish me will fall in their own self-esteem when they see the magnitude of what heaven has built in me. I declare that when I emerge, I will emerge completely, without fear, without hesitation, without need for apologies, because heaven goes with me, and nothing can stand against what heaven sustains. I declare that my wall will be completed in these days, that my purpose will be fulfilled, that my truth will be known, not through my desperate effort to be seen, but through the natural and divine completion of what heaven began in secret and is now revealing in its perfect time. Before we close, I want you to feel the presence of God's love enveloping you at this very moment, because this is not just a video you watched casually. This is a message that was directed specifically for you, a conversation that the universe has been orchestrating so you could finally understand that your invisibility was not a failure, but a masterclass in the power of divine patience, a demonstration of wisdom that transcends human understanding. God's love for you is so deep, so specific, so intimate, that He has protected you in ways you cannot even see yet, guarded you in places you do not truly comprehend, prepared you for a purpose you are still discovering, and He continues here, in this moment, enveloping your heart with the certainty that you are loved exactly as you are, exactly as you have been from the beginning, and that everything you thought you lost during your invisibility was invested in your future glory. If this video touched something deep in you, if you recognized your own story and Esther's story, leave your comment below, share this message with that woman you know who is waiting for these words, subscribe to our channel so you do not miss the next message that will be just as transformative as this one. And allow heaven to know that you are ready to begin revealing yourself, that you are ready to honor who you really are, that you are ready to walk in your purpose with the full confidence of one who was designated from before the foundation of the world. God's love is upon you, chosen daughter, now and always. Amen.